All right, and welcome to Fast Break Breakfast, NBA podcast. My name is Keith Parrish, and I'm here once again with my buddy through the miracle of computer phone, here with Dave DeFord. Dave, happy preseason. How are you doing?
I'm great. Today's the 7th anniversary of bringing my dog home.
Oh,
So, which is a thing people celebrate now.
October 7th, also not the anniversary of anything else.
No, only my
you
dog
bringing your
coming
dog home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what's it called? It's not a birthday. It's called a get date or something.
Day.
Gotcha day. I knew pet owners had this thing, but I was unfamiliar with it.
No. I'm new to this.
Okay.
My phone let me know that it was, it was very nice. It was like, hey,
that's
first
sweet.
Picture of your dog was 7 years ago, which seems like a lot of information.
What do you do to honor the dog? Something special?
I think it's more about you honoring yourself by posting about your dog, because my dog doesn't have social media. So
that's not its fault. It's your fault. Give your dog some.
I don't know that he's not really into screens, to be honest with you. He's not one of these dogs that watches TV.
I am continually perplexed by screens and how animals both interact and do not interact. Like they just know, a lot of them just know, like, that's not a thing. Why would I look at it?
But some of them are dumb as rocks.
Yeah, well, it's people who are like, you can immediately identify AI. You're like, that's not a real picture. Why are you showing me this? Some cats, some dogs are like, this is fake. Who cares? Like, what? But then some of them are like, oh, there's something on the screen. What is it? I'm gonna get it. So you think those are the dumber animals? Are the ones who are led by the screens? Yeah,
they're more reactive, right? More like my dog and I. We've worked on impulse control, basically every day of his life. That's what keeps dogs alive.
Why are you fighting its nature, man? Just let it live.
Well, because no,
I'm kidding.
He's a 100-pound dog. That's why. But when the doorbell rings, he doesn't react. He doesn't bark. If it rings a second time, he wants to find me. He looks for me. A third time, he thinks there's an emergency.
That is the exact same way I treat incoming phone calls. First ring, I'm not picking that up.
Yeah.
Even if I know you.
Right.
Actually, someone called me on Saturday morning who's never called me on the phone before. This is somebody who I've just texted with. It's somebody in my phone. I know who it is. And for the first time ever, they're calling me. And I was briefly like, oh no, like that's, I think the most common thought, or it's like, this is a butt dial. But it turned out, somebody on my daughter's soccer team, thought we had team pictures at like a certain time. And he called me and was like, hey, is there team pictures? I was told to come here. I'm like, oh man, there's no team pictures. I'm so sorry. I'm terrified. But also I was in the car with my family, with like my kids and stuff. Right. So I hit it speakerphone and I'm like, hey buddy, you're on speakerphone with the whole family. How's it going?
All right. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. That's a clutch move because, as you know, we've talked on the phone a couple times.
Yeah.
And sometimes throw in some colorful.
You just need to know who's there.
Yeah.
And it's like, you need to know whose kids you're going to be talking about if my kids can hear it.
Right.
Anyways, everything worked out. Your dog
amazing
gets 3 phone calls. I'm panicked. I'm worried something's going bad.
Nobody's calling my dog today, for instance.
That's good. Today's episode, Dave, it's a doozy. I'm nervous about it. It's a fun exercise. Today's episode,
it's a good idea.
We're going to draft the teams that we think are most likely to make the play-in. And I did this exercise last year, but I split it up by conference. I did the Eastern Conference with Rob Mahoney. He destroyed me. He got all 4 play-in teams. I got 0.
Oh, you went back?
Draft. I went back and checked it out. It turns out I forgot that we actually wagered things. It turns out I owe Rob Mahoney any food item from the concourse at Summer League. So I lost that bet. I did the Western Conference with Mike Zakarian and we tied. And I came up with a tiebreaker that was whichever team is picked last that also made it, that person wins the tiebreaker. But upon listening back to it, that seems dumb. Not because I lost based on this tiebreaker, but like 2 out of my first 3 picks for the Western Conference made the play-in. So that feels like that's a better job than like, oh, we finally ended up with the Warriors, at the very end.
Right.
Like last year for the Eastern Conference, oh, you picked the 76ers with the 13th pick and they made the play-in. Not that great. But anyways, right. So this show, we're going to do the entire league. So Dave, you and I are going to draft 15 teams apiece. And I will tell you, when I started ranking the teams based on most likely to make the play-in versus least, like there's a few. So like, again, the conceit is the horrible teams and the very, very best teams are going to be the last picks. Like
right.
Wizards, Nets, Celtics, probably going to be the last picks in this thing. But I got to this clump where it's just like, this is the first time I think I really ranked the conferences and like tried to start thinking about my win totals for each team. And I was like, there's just this pile of teams and they're all the same. And it's all just going to be random injuries, scheduling. So I don't know. So I feel like it's a lot to bite off. What were your thoughts? You just think it's fun. You're not gonna worry about it.
Yeah, I just think it's fun. I'm not stressed at all about it, but I definitely, I have a strategy.
All right. I'm excited to hear the strategy. We'll get to that in a little bit. Before we do though, of course, we have to talk about our breakfasts. Dave, what breakfast have you had?
I had a bite of my delicious oatmeal.
Yeah.
That I made, I don't know, an hour ago. Just forgot, I
it's like leftover?
No, I mean, it's just, I popped it in the microwave, had it set up, did like 5 other things.
Lukewarm oatmeal.
Well, no, I mean, it's objectively cold at this point.
Okay.
But, I had a bite when it was still hot.
Is it still pumpkin flavored? Pumpkin spicy?
Man. We're in pumpkin season. Yeah.
Full pumpkin season. I had a weird breakfast. Took my kids to the orthodontist today. Our first ever orthodontist trip.
So you guys had bean burritos on the way?
Yeah. I was like, hey, just wipe all this over your teeth. No, honestly, pretty fun because basically it was the like free consultation. I've never done orthodontist. I didn't have braces or anything. And my wife did. Also, my wife knows about the human body and medicine and things, and I know nothing. But it was a fun trip while it was still free. And also it was just taking pictures of the kids' heads and teeth. And it was like, hey, hold your teeth open. And like the 7-year-old's like, oh, gross. And it's like, yeah, it's awesome. And then it's like, look at the x-ray. You can see inside your head. Look inside your brother's head. Look at those teeth that haven't come in yet. So all that was really fun, relatively. But we didn't have much time. And I got to record this podcast episode with you. Got to go to work. And I ate leftover mac and cheese, Kraft mac and cheese. That's what the kids ate for dinner last night. It's horrible leftover. Wait,
I mean,
when you make it, it's fine.
Okay.
It's like a childhood staple. Maybe you have nostalgic like memories towards it, the flavor and things. But what I do, so I just, heat it up in the microwave. I did the thing where I flicked a little bit of water on there, try to just moisturize it a little, just flick some water, get a little moisture in there. But then the savior, this is the thing what my former co-hosts taught me. You get the spicy chili crisp.
Oh yeah.
And just mix it in. And that's now the new flavor. It's now just transformed. Now it's just a warm substance with this chili flavor. It's amazing. So like that was it. A weird breakfast breaking of the fast. But that's what I ate. So it's going to be good enough.
Yeah.
But did you have ideas? It seemed like you wanted to say something about heating up Kraft mac and cheese.
Well, no.
Okay.
I was like,
no takes I thought maybe you had a secret strategy.
No, actually, I probably have more takes about the dental x-rays that your kids got than I do on the mac and cheese. Oh, yeah, I mean, come on.
What are your thoughts?
Just probably needless x-rays. Let's just say that. There's a lot of x-ray going on. It's just
I not having ever gone to an orthodontist, I understand their business model.
Yeah.
And I understand, the whole, it feels like the goal, much like a car mechanic, was same with like dentists and orthodontists. You want to find somebody who doesn't believe in doing much. They're like, you know what? It'll be
Well,
fine.
you're hoping you don't need much. I mean, it actually is a little bit more complicated than I'm making it seem like. You know, there's how old are you? Your kids are how old?
7 and 10.
Yeah. So what they've done recently, I don't want to get into why I know so much about all this, but if there's going to be structural issues with the palate or the jaw,
Yeah.
they can potentially start working on those now.
Right.
Ahead, like if you need to expand the palate or
neither one of us are saying it's a quack science.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
There are things to be done, but apparently we're in the wait and see mode. We're in the, hey, just come in here for free for the next 3 years, and then we're going to do something. So,
man,
and then they start making money off of us.
That's genius.
They're just laying the foundation. Seems
like they're doing so much extra work now. Has every industry just been hit with so much competition that you just got to add layer upon layer?
I don't know.
When are they going to start offering subscription services for orthodontic care?
I mean, my father-in-law has a subscription to a plumber.
Oh
and I was like, I don't think that's a good idea.
What is happening? I can't buy Photoshop, Keith.
Listen, I would like to sell the subscription to my podcast, Fastbreak Breakfast. Patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. By the way, what a natural segue, Dave. Not really, but I don't understand subscriptions in some services.
Yeah.
Some services you should be trying to win my business at every turn.
Right.
I think plumbers fall under that. I mean, the dream is to have a plumber you trust and an electrician you trust,
right?
You know, a HVAC guy you trust.
But all those
guy or gal, these people that
like TikTok videos, and so I don't trust any of them.
Yeah, it's hard when you're saying, "Hey, subscribe to my air conditioning service." I'm like, no, I don't want to. I want you to help me and do a good job that I want to call you again. That's all I want.
That's it.
I hope. Listen, we have Patreon supporters who they call me again, and I love them. Sometimes the fantasy basketball season's over. Step away, save a few dollars, but then fantasy basketball season comes back around. That's right, Jay Garrick, he's back. Derek Odell, he's back. Appreciate you guys. Also, shout out Hayes Go Lightly and Randy Moss. All names of people who signed up. I believe it's probably the football player. Thank you guys for joining the Patreon. Of course, right now for the Patreon, we're trying to get people to sign up to play fantasy basketball. Fantasy basketball signups are going on right now. We have normal head-to-head leagues. And also, of course, the infamous International Stackhouse of Pancakes Negative Fantasy League. Right now, 26 people have joined the last time I checked. The goal is to get 40 people. So we're 14 people away. If you're a current Patreon supporter, what are you doing? Sign up for the league, play in the league where you get points for ejections and missed shots and fouls. If you're thinking about supporting this independent podcast, join now so you can play in the Negative Fantasy League. Again, patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. All right, Dave.
I say this every year, Keith, but
what is it?
Negative Fantasy would maybe be the only way I could get back.
Let's get you in. Let's get you signed up, Dave.
So.
Dave's playing. You heard
Doesn't
it here.
Feel fair though.
You're gonna be great.
I kind of have an inside track. I can tell you who's awful.
Like right now. Those were our breakfasts. Now let's do our breakfast in bed apologies. This is our chance to make right what we might have gotten wrong in a previous episode. It's frequently the first time we talk about the NBA, and unfortunately, we are going to talk about the NBA. That's not the unfortunate part. Unfortunately, not a lot to apologize for last episode. The fact checkers didn't really find anything that we misspoke about. I will say I'll use this as an excuse to get into the preseason basketball. I actually have been watching a lot of preseason basketball. I was excited to see it, man. This offseason felt forever long for whatever reason.
Even with the Olympics?
It just did. I don't know. Maybe it's because there was no big trades. I mean, there's even the cat trade last. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But we were talking about, every team in our Butter or Parquet previews, and we talked about the starting lineups that we thought might happen or what we would like to see. We didn't get them all totally right. I mean, we have maybe answers to some of the starting lineup questions we had. None of this is definitive. We're talking preseason game one. We're also talking about situations where some guys weren't available, like for the Pistons, Tobias Harris didn't play. So Tim Hardaway Jr. started. I didn't see that coming, but a couple of things that I think I could say I got a little bit wrong. You were right on this. The Wizards started Alexander Sarr at the 4. That was what you suggested they should do, and that is in fact what they did. They named Jordan Poole starting point guard. Make whatever comment you want about that, but they started in their first preseason game Jordan Poole and Koulibaly as a shooting guard, and then Kuzma at the 3, Alexander Sarr at the 4, and Jonas Valanciunas at the 5. So letting Sarr develop playing power forward, you called it a kind of a low pressure role, being able to be a big alongside Valanciunas, a good way to learn. Also, Josh Green started as a shooting guard for the Hornets. That was one we didn't know, like, who's going to start.
Yeah, who's playing? Yeah.
But they started LaMelo and Josh Green and Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and then Nick Richards started because Mark Williams is not ready yet. So we got some of those answers. So I thought that was cool. One of the things I was excited to see in preseason basketball. Also, I feel like, Dave, you should apologize for all the negative things you said about Bronny James. I mean, what excitement, Dave, watching Bronny and LeBron play together.
Now hold on a second. I've never said anything negative about him at all. I think it's a little weird, but also totally fine. And like, it's nice, actually.
It was good that got out of the way.
Yeah.
JJ Redick was like, it was the right time to do it. And he was sort of meaning that time of the game based on the rotation pattern. But no, in LeBron's first preseason game, this is the right time to do it.
This is the right time.
By the way, in the iShop Negative Fantasy League scoring system, Bronny has posted some doozies. He had no points, 4 turnovers.
4 turnovers,
like
3 fouls.
That's incredible. That's incredible scoring from Bronny. I don't know if he's actually going to get in the game. I don't know if he's worth drafting in the actual league, but again, most players get drafted, so he probably will be. Let's actually get into some things we saw in the preseason before we start our draft for which teams we think are most likely to make the play in. Did you have a chance to see anything? I have a few things I would like to go over. Is there anything that you were able to gather from the opening 3 days of preseason basketball?
I mean, I've seen a little bit of stuff.
Yeah.
With the Knicks, everyone's really going to pay attention to Karl Anthony Towns, rightfully so. What's kind of crazy for them is in this game the other day, 11 threes off the bench from Miles McBride, Landry Shamet, and Tyler Kolek. Tyler Kolek, lefty, can shoot. I think this guy's Tom Thibodeau is going to love this guy.
I mean, they're going to need some of those guys to play. I mean, again, the Knicks rotation is not the deepest now. You mentioned the 11 3-pointers off the bench. I would say one takeaway I've had, and I actually haven't checked the numbers to see if this takeaway is accurate. Maybe it's just preseason, the first few games, everyone's like not going too hard. A lot of the veterans are in a more, let's warm it up. It's like your first pickup run. Like, let's get some jogs in before we actually go really hard. But because of that, it seems like maybe teams were shooting / settling for even more 3-pointers. There were so many 3-pointers taken in all these games. The Bucks Pistons game had so many threes. Of course, the Celtics take 50 3-pointers a game. That was a takeaway I feel like I had. My most important takeaway from the first few preseason games, Dave. I love the Clippers' new jerseys.
They look so nice.
They look so nice and clean. Maybe this is an old man topic where I'm like, I was watching the game and I'm like pointing at my TV and I say, now that's a basketball jersey.
It's a beautiful blue. And I mean, listen, now they moved to Inglewood. It'd be so much better if they were the Long Beach Clippers, since it's an actual port. But I'll leave that aside. Those jerseys look so nice.
They look good. And it's hard to tell sometimes with all these jerseys. We see just mock-ups of them and then we just see them like laid out. But until you see them on TV with players wearing them, it's hard to judge. And I will say the ones they wore, the white ones, it was just like, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was just immediately striking and iconic, as opposed to the horrible jerseys that they've had the last couple of years. And they've never really had like an elite, like, oh my goodness, that's a great jersey.
Those powder blue ones are great.
They're good.
Right.
The throwbacks, but like, I felt like they actually hit it out of the park with just that simple design. I don't love the logo, the new logo, but just the little cursive font. I'm like, that's a basketball jersey.
It looks professional.
That's
I would let those guys, Run my ship.
There you go. I actually liked what I saw from the Lakers. I saw parts of two of their
I have
games.
notes on.
What do
Yeah.
you? Well, like I was impressed. Well, the first game, Max Christie was amazing. The next game, not so much. More on that in the award segment of the program. But like I thought Dalton Connect looked pretty good. Gabe Vincent was alive, which seemed like a positive change. So like I kind of liked what I saw from the Lakers. What were your notes on their games?
I love the movement. Now we're gonna see how long this lasts, right? Like, not getting a lot of LeBron James on the court, but the way that the other guys are playing, I actually like how Anthony Davis is touching the ball a little bit higher up. I not into the threes. He should take them when they're there, not seek them out. But I like him getting the ball like at the elbow extended wing, and being able to work a little bit. And then they were cutting off of him, which is something that they haven't done in previous seasons. So, I really like that. I think Dalton Connect is gonna. I think he's a player for them, like right away. He just looks like very comfortable out there.
There are a couple of players I've already seen so far, and again, we're talking about like what 9 games have been played or something. There are a couple of guys who I saw at Summer League, where at Summer League I'm like kind of a mess, not really showing up. We're immediately in one preseason game. I was like, oh, Dalton Connect looks very comfortable. Seems like he fits in, looks like an NBA player.
Yeah.
And then just watching Ron Holland, I thought in Summer League, it was disappointing how he did not seem that athletic. Go watch Ron Holland's minutes against the Bucks. He is running so hard. He's running so hard at one point he falls over. Cause he like gets out over he got out over his skis and he was so hyped up. He was running so hard. He like trips, but in the game, the guy was like electric. And this might be the whole, veterans, like guys on the Bucks who they were playing were like, hey, easy, man. Like, what do you like? Take it easy, brother. You know, like, but he's going 130%. And that was fun.
The thing about Summer League is none of these guys are really in great shape when they're at Summer League, like basketball shape. You think about it, they usually have finished up March at the latest, and they've been training and they've been doing a lot of drill work and they've been weightlifting and they've been doing all the media stuff. And then they go and do the combine. You know what I mean? Like they're training for different things. I just think like we discount that a little bit. And so, I mean, even remember Victor Wembanyama didn't look all that great at Summer League. And then it turns out, oh yeah, that guy's pretty good. So I think that there is a point where I don't want to take the fun out of it, but some of it is just being able to rest and be in shape is going to be good for some of these guys.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I'll say my favorite thing from preseason so far, and then we'll get into the main exercise of today's show.
Rob Dillingham?
Rob Dillingham was good. Oh, by the way, Josh Minot was amazing in that game.
Rob Dillingham has pretty much every shot in his bag. I mean, it is they got Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. I mean, they added 2 guards to their rotation, it looks like.
It's really, they hope so. And it's really weird when I think about the Timberwolves. One reason I liked the Karl Anthony Towns trade is because it gave them more depth. It gave them better players. And I do feel like their depth is not really a strength, but if some of these guys can play, if Minot is actually useful, if Dillingham and Shannon are immediately ready to contribute as rookies, maybe they have great depth. And then I saw John Krasinski, who covers the Timberwolves, being like, depth is one of our strengths. And I was like, I didn't think that as an outsider, but you're probably more right than I am. No, Dave, obviously my favorite thing I saw was DeAnthony Melton and Kyle Anderson playing basketball together at the same time. I never thought I'd see it again in my whole life. That was one of my favorite things as a basketball fan ever. I thought it was gone. And now the Warriors have brought them both in. They actually shared the court for something like 9 seconds. Oh, it was beautiful. It was lovely. And Dave, my offseason take that I'm kind of in on the Warriors, predictably, watched one preseason game. That team's going to mash people. That team's going to be awesome. They held someone in our Patreon only Slack was like, the Clippers only got 1 offensive rebound in the first half. And I'm like, Did you see the horses the Warriors had out there? You try getting a rebound when it's like Pajimski, Melton, Kevon Looney, Draymond, Kyle. Like, there's no rebounds to get. Gary Payton, too, out there. They are going to own the offensive and defensive glass every single night. They just need Steph to score 45. If Steph can score 45,
is going to be the third member of the Light Years crew this year.
Oh man, I don't. Have you checked in with the Light Years guys? Are they excited about this year's team? Or I think you and me are more optimistic about this Warriors team than they are.
I did talk to Sam. At Summer League. They seem to be excited. I should hit them up and ask them, hey guys, how are you feeling? Look, Kevon Looney looks great.
Have you seen the workout videos where he's all skinnied up, slimmed down to high school mixtape Kevon Looney, where he was the next Kevin Durant?
If he can give him 15 good smart Looney minutes off the bench, if Trace Jackson Davis can grow a little bit.
I didn't even mention him. He started. So Trace Jackson Davis started. Pajinski came off the bench behind Melton. Wiggins didn't play. So we don't know how it's going to work exactly when Wiggins is available. Wiggins, by the way, solid rebounder, solid defender. I am all in on the Warriors having a very good defense and being very hard to play against.
They're not one of my play-in teams, I think.
However, when we do this exercise, though, they might come up kind of early. So let's take a quick break, and then we will come back and we will draft the teams based on how likely we think they are to end up in the play-in. All right, Dave, this exercise, we're drafting teams most likely to make the play-in, meaning we want to get the teams that finish 7 through 10 in each conference. And I think throwing all the conferences together has made this very, very tough for me. But I think we've explained it enough, and we can just get into it. Dave, I'll let you have the first pick. We're not doing a snake draft.
Wow.
We're just going to go back and forth. And we need to have some form of stakes, even though I didn't cash in on the stakes. I forgot about them. We should be playing for something. Maybe it's just a nice meal.
Parfait.
Or a breakfast parfait in Las Vegas at Summer League. I think the tiebreaker after having, if we end up with the same number of teams, I think whoever picks the first 4 first. If we tie 4-4, whoever got their 4 picks first, even though that's a big advantage for picking first, I still think that maybe makes the most sense. So, Dave, which team do you think is most likely to make the play-in? And also, is there any other preamble or explainer you'd like to give for your strategy?
No, listen, I'm trying to pick the teams that I think are going to be in there.
Okay. So who's your first pick?
The Indiana Pacers.
All right. That is a team I picked last year as one of the most likely teams to make the play-in. Of course, they did not make the play-in last year. Dave, I don't hate the pick. You think so? Can you even tell me, or maybe it's a giveaway?
If you
tell me which 6 teams you think are. I will say, math. Yeah. So one thing that I used as a strategy last year that I don't know if I'm going to stick with is if I was going to err, I erred on the side of good teams. Like I'm thinking, I think when I look at a lot of these teams, I look at the Pacers right now. I roughly have the Pacers as I think the 6th or 5th best team in the East. Now you of course think it's more likely they're 7th based on your pick, but I don't hate it because I think the range is something like 3rd to 9th. And you have a nice, comfortable range where they could finish in that play-in. I will say Pacers, though, actually significantly lower in my rankings. So that's interesting. Here's my first pick, Dave. A team that owns the play-in. A team that makes it every single year. And I think, actually, here's a spoiler, too. I think I'm going to lean heavily on the Western Conference for a while. Because when I look at the East, I think if you asked me to guess the play-in teams in the East, it's much easier to be accurate about which teams are making the play-in. I think in the East, as opposed to the West, where it's just like this mess. But I do think my plan is going to be just to spam Western Conference, knowing some of these teams are going to make it in. I feel pretty confident. So I'm going to kick it off with the Pelicans, Dave. I think the Pelicans, I have them as not even one of the higher up teams in the West right now. Vegas right now has essentially 5 or 6 West teams all the same, around like 47, 48, 46 wins in there. That's a team for me that I think is on the underside of that. So I am very excited actually to end up with the Pelicans on my my roster of teams that I'm drafting.
Okay. I think we're kind of I appreciate you saying that you did last year what I'm doing this year.
Which is
now I can think this through a little bit.
Yeah,
and adjust, because now I've got to be a little bit more strategic and get out ahead.
I will say last year, Dave,
I'm also not going to change my strategy.
Last year, so no teams that were projected to be bad last season coming into the year broke through
right
into the play-in. So I think for me, that's affected me a little bit. It was all teams that were either kind of we thought were going to be there or teams that dropped down. Listening back to my episode last year, consensus league-wide, I wasn't blazing any trails. Consensus league-wide was like, hey, the Raptors and the Nets, these teams are all on this collision course for being here. Or maybe the Magic if their season turns out great, or the Pacers, like you said. But it turned out that it was all teams kind of dropping down. None of the teams projected to have low win totals actually broke through. So I don't know if that affects anything. But so you got Pacers, I got Pelicans. I don't think we've offended anybody. You might have offended Caitlin Cooper and Pacers fans. I think this exercise is offensive to teams that are like, hey, we're going to be home court advantage. I think Pacers people, because of making the conference finals, they're hoping that like they're actually on the way up. They're going to have a fully healthy Halliburton season. But I don't hit the pick. All right. But anyways, all right. Pacers, Pelicans off the board. Who's your next pick?
I'm going to go with the Memphis Grizzlies. Look, they've
Dave,
got.
How dare you?
I know.
With the third pick,
I had to do it. I just don't. I don't think they're as good as a lot of the teams in the West, but I think that they're a 7 seed. You know, in my head, just on paper, if they're all healthy, you know, you still got big question marks. I think at center. Obviously, the wing situation with the injuries coming into the year, that's going to be tough because everyone's going to start out behind. There's no Kyle Anderson or DeAnthony Melton to bail him out, Keith.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm definitely not offended by the pick. And I had on my big board, I had the Grizzlies as 6th for this exercise. I was way more optimistic about the Grizzlies a month ago. Because I'm like, listen, we're back. We've got all our guys. I think I am less confident in some of the teams they're going up against, like the Pelicans. I'm more confident in the Grizzlies. And I think the Clippers are taking a big step back. But in the last month, we've had Vince Williams Jr. is injured. Oh, by the way, Gigi Jackson's out. Oh, by the way, Jaren Jackson Jr. has a hamstring injury. Oh, by the way, at training camp, Taylor Jenkins once again said that rebounding is based on want to. And I just don't believe that as a thing. I think it's a skill. I don't think it's a want to or willpower situation. And so I'm like, are we doing this again? And then I'm like, what if Ja gets hurt? And what if our team is so small? And I think I'm now actually I've seen that their over under for a while was around 48 wins. I'm under that. I think they're a 46 win team. And that would put them squarely in the play-in. I think their upside, they have incredible upside. That if they're healthy, they're going to win 50 something games, and then they'd be near the top of the conference. But I think it's a safe pick for this.
Yeah.
So sorry guys. I know I have a big chunk of Grizzlies fans listeners. You take the Grizzlies, but that leaves me a team I'm excited to take, which is the Los Angeles Lakers. I think the Los Angeles Lakers. Do you know what's the highest they finished since they won the bubble title?
Isn't it 7th?
It's 7th. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the play-in was built for the Lakers.
Yeah.
And this is
a play-in team
to make the play-in. Yeah. This is the perfect.
I think not to
Look,
tip
you
my
don't
hand too
bring
much.
in Bronny James to not make the play-in. Okay?
Yeah, you don't totally punt on one of your usable roster spots for PR purposes to not make the play-in. I think the Lakers are headed back towards the play-in. I think they have some upward mobility where this is a 4 through 10 seed in the West, and I like having that option. So I'm excited to get the Pelicans Lakers. Again, two of the teams who have the most play-in experience ever. I'm excited to get them with my fourth pick. Dave, back to you.
This one's gonna pain me, Keith. But again, they were so fun. They were so good last year. The Orlando Magic.
I knew you were going to say the Orlando Magic. Magic are third on my big board. They were up next.
Yeah, the Orlando Magic, they just have no offense. They did not address it. Paolo Banchero is not a point guard. Jalen Suggs is good, but he is not a good table setter. So I think that for a team like this, you really need that. We talked in our preview. What happened to Franz Wagner's jump shot? I don't know. He hurt his ankle last summer, and to me, just hadn't looked right since. So, but they're still good, and that defense is still good, and they're well coached. So I think they're 7-8 seed which is probably what they should have been last year. If you start looking at the standings and you think about just talent on paper, which is all we've got to go on right now. Orlando.
There are 6 teams in the East that I feel are uncontroversially better than the Magic right now. I'm going to name them: the Celtics, the Knicks, the 76ers, the Cavs, the Bucks, and I think the Pacers. And I also think maybe the Heat are going to be better than the Magic this year. That's why I had the Magic as my next team to take. You took them, but I'm left with the team I think they're going to be very closely matched up with. Their Southeast Division Florida rivals, the Miami Heat, is my next pick. I think the Heat right now, I still think I trust Celtics, Knicks, 76ers, Cavs, Pacers, Bucks more than the Heat roster. That puts the Heat squarely in that play-in range. I don't think, and this is maybe the good part about drafting East teams, there's not much further down I think the Magic or the Heat are going to go. So your main worry is they might finish too high, but I feel very good about ending up with the Heat right here.
All right, well, then let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. You cannot have the play-in without Mr. Play-in, Trae Young, Atlanta Hawks. We're done.
I really hoped the Hawks would stay on the board until they came back to me.
Got it.
So I again, these are not final Keith's official final win total projections, but I have right now a rough 10 game win total difference between 8 and 9 in the East. I have the Magic and Heat maybe somewhere like 45 wins. But guess what? Winning 34 games is going to get you in the play-in, it looks like.
You only got to win 2 games after that.
Yeah. So I have the Hawks with way fewer wins than the Magic and the Heat, but I also have them. I have them as my 9 seed in the East right now. We laid it out too in the Southeastern Conference episode. Their depth chart looks fine, even though they lost DeJounte Murray. They don't control their own draft pick. It's an unprotected pick going to the Spurs. I think Trae Young can win you 34 games, I think. And you got Bogdan Bogdanovic, you got Clint Capella, you got Jalen Johnson, you got DeAndre Hunter.
What if they're fine. Better?
I mean,
what if they're better?
They might be better. But I think that's an amazing pick. I honestly was doing a little game theory hoping they'd stick around, but no, that's good. All right. So you have the Hawks and I'm jealous of that pick. I feel like that top 7, although I didn't have the Pacers in there, but that's fine. I feel like Pelicans, Lakers, Magic, Heat, Hawks, Grizzlies are some very good picks. Pacers, I'm not as convinced on, but hey,
Pacers is me swinging for wins.
You're swinging for it. I now have less of a clear vision of what I want to do. I think I'm going to go back to the Western Conference again, and I think I'm going to go to the Sacramento Kings.
Damn it.
Sorry, buddy. So the Kings made the play-in last year. Once again, I'm circling. This is a team that is on paper seems to be kind of as good as everyone else around them, as good as the Grizzlies and the Pelicans and the Warriors and maybe the Lakers. I don't know. I think they did make some strides getting DeMar DeRozan. Maybe they clear this and they're closer to like what they were a couple seasons ago when they had home court advantage. But I think odds of them ending up in the play-in are much higher than anybody else still left on the board. So I will take the Sacramento Kings. Dave, we're 8 teams in. What are you thinking?
This is insane. All right. Well, I'm going to stay in the West. They lose Paul George. Kawhi is questionable. But we said this. James Harden, if Trae Young can get you to the play-in, James Harden can get you to the play-in. So I'm going to go with the Clippers here. We know they're going to drop out of the top 6 for sure. I don't think that there's enough of a drop-off for them to be in the 43 win range. I think that this could be a 44, 45, 46 win team. That should be good enough for the 9 or 10 seed in the West.
So I have
going with the Clippers.
I don't hate it. You got to trust what Ty Lue is doing, and Harden with the ball in his hands. Man, the guy's a basketball player who's, he obviously he loves the game, and he's maybe, I don't know, handing him the car keys. Is there an upside there? Of course, it's going to come down to Kawhi. And for me, I'm lower on the Clippers just because I'm buying stock in the Rockets. And I'm also, like I said, a big believer in the Warriors. So like I have the Clippers right now as my 12th best team in the West. And so I'm less optimistic, although now that I've seen their jerseys, maybe I'm going to bump them up a little bit.
New arena.
I did like in the first preseason game, a lot of talk about turning Zubac into more of a scorer. Sign me up. Yeah. I don't hate the pick. I had him a couple slots lower. I am going to take actually the Warriors. I still think, they made the play-in. They've been to the play-in a lot, honestly. And I do think they have some upward mobility because I believe in the way the roster actually fits together and their defense and rebounding and the magic of Steph. But I think the most likely outcome is their mid 40s again. I think they're going to win more games than the Clippers, so they seem much safer to me to make the play-in. So I will take Steph Curry and my guys Slow-Mo and DeAnthony Melton of the Warriors. And if I'm hopeful right now, looking at my roster of teams, I hope I have the entire Western Conference play-in. I got Pelicans, Lakers, Kings, Warriors. That was last year's. Let's see if I can run it back again this year. All right, Dave.
All right. I'm going to steal your next pick, or at least the team I think you're picking next with the Rockets. That's the team I think is going to be battling the Clippers for that 10th spot. We obviously know like they're young, they're pretty good, probably not great. This is not an actual playoff team. They were right there toward the end of last season, making that push for the play-in. I think this year they're even closer. I have the Clippers edging them out, but I'm going to take the Rockets.
I like that pick there. I only had one other team on my big board ahead of the Rockets. So yeah, Rockets definitely coming up next for me. I still like to emphasize to our listeners who haven't written down all the teams and like you haven't made your predictions yet. The West is wild. It's just like the Thunder, the Timberwolves, the Mavericks, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Lakers, Grizzlies, Warriors, Kings, Pelicans. That's 10 teams. And then there's the Rockets and the Clippers. And like, that's now 12 teams. So it's a spicy exercise because like of those 12 teams, they're all expecting to make the playoffs. And the very least they're expecting to make the play-in. So like, this is one of the things I think I like to say is like, two teams are like losing players / people are getting fired if they don't even make the play-in, but you just can't. So like, it's going to be hard out there. But I actually think I'm going to jump back over to the Eastern Conference. I think I'm going to take a team I'm a little bit down on, I think relative to consensus. That's the Milwaukee Bucks. It only takes, I right now have them as a top 6 team, but if the Magic or Heat put it all together, I think they could end up, passing the Bucks. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Bucks only won like 46, 47 games. you need to have a peak Giannis season, but then you also need Dame Lillard and Brooke Lopez, and I'd say Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton to all be healthy and playing well together. I think there's not a lot you can take from preseason games other than the fact that once those guys I just mentioned are off the court for the Bucks, they have no players. I mean, Gary Trent looked fine. DeLon Wright looked slow compared to Ron Holland. And then there's a bunch of guys who are just not NBA players. Doc Rivers has like a Van Dyke right now. It could look kind of a fun little facial hair twist from Doc Rivers. But I think I'm not worried about the Bucks falling, of course, to like 10th. But at this point of the draft, if I know a team is probably going to win in the 40s, and I don't think they're going to be a 50-win team, that feels like a relatively safe pick at this time. So I'll take the Bucks as my 6th pick.
Okay. Well, now it's getting fun.
Yeah.
Got some numbers for you, Keith. I know how much you love numbers.
Yeah.
35, 55, 47, 75. That's games played for Kevin Durant.
Ooh.
Last 4 seasons. Okay. So last season, 75 games played. Yeah. He's 36 years old. That's a lot, man. I'm going to put the Suns here. Their margin for error, although I do think they're really talented and maybe they have a high ceiling in a playoff series, the margin for error is pretty slim for the regular season. One of their big 3 guys goes down. Nurkic goes down. You know, who backs him up at center? I mean, and he's not even great as it is. Like, their defense is going to struggle, I think. Yeah. Phoenix Suns might be in the play-in.
Let me read you some numbers. 8, 37, 56, 52, 76. That's Nurkic games played the last, what is that, 5 seasons. So yeah, Nurkic played 76. Durant played 75. I do think that they rounded out the roster nicely this offseason, but I think it's an absolutely good pick at this point of the draft. And again, like, they're going to win probably between, on the high end, 53 games, on the low end, 44.
43?
Yeah, somewhere around there. And that's going to put you in the play-in if Durant misses a lot of games, if Bradley Beal is banged up, if Bradley Booker isn't, if Devin Booker isn't available every single night. Yeah, that's a good pick, Dave. Now, so I had the Suns close with another team. Now I'm trying to debate whether I want to go with a team that I think is not very good, or if another one of those solid teams that I think might slip. I don't know what to do because I don't think Jazz, Spurs, or Trailblazers are worth taking basically at all. I don't see much upside for them. In the East, also, we include the Nets and the Wizards in that. I'm confused about the Bulls. I assume they're going to be terrible. But then I start getting to teams where I'm like, someone's got to make it, you know, like Toronto or Detroit or Charlotte. You're like, someone has to make the play-in. And so I'm a little bit stuck, but you know what? I think I'm going to make an audible here. I think I'm going to slide up a team that was falling on my big board. I'm going to take Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets because I think the West is going to be that tough. I'll go and tell you, I was debating between them and the Raptors. I thought maybe the Raptors would be 10th, but I don't think the Raptors are finishing any high.
I would say more realistic the Nuggets drop to the play-in than the Raptors.
That's what I'm saying. Well, so my thinking was the Raptors have a chance to be 9th or 10th, maybe. The Nuggets, meanwhile, they could win 46 games and be a 7, 8, or 9 seed. It seems maybe more likely. So I guess I'm going to take the Denver Nuggets right here just because we don't have to do the numbers game because I'm not going to Michael Porter Jr.'s basketball reference page, but I'm pretty sure he played 80 games last year or 81 or something. And Jamal Murray, obviously, we said so much about him not looking great. Their bench, it's just nothing. They're depending on random draft picks to bail them out. And that's a risky game to play. Maybe the Russell Westbrook experiment works, but I could see this team winning 47 games, and that could land you as a 7 or 8 seed. So I'll take the Nuggets. I veered away from my big board. I called an audible. I'll take the Denver Nuggets.
I'm going to take the Dallas Mavericks.
Wow.
They make this run to the finals last year after the deadline, built largely on the way they defended, especially come playoff time. I mean, that defense was incredible. And what number is Klay Thompson as in deflections? What was it? 89th?
Yeah, it was he was something. I think it was 104 qualifying players played over 2,000 minutes, and he was like 99th or 100. Yeah.
Keith, how would you feel if PJ Washington was your best point of attack and wing defender?
It's not the best spot to be in.
They really need a bit of a, maybe not a leap, but a good forward hop from Derek Lively, I think, to make this all work. I'm not saying it's impossible, but as you just mentioned, the West is going to be a bloodbath, and it's really not that hard to see a team drop into 7th. I mean, if you look at the Eastern Conference last year, there was a tie. I mean, the Sixers had the same number of wins as Orlando and Indiana. I mean, this could very easily come down to tiebreakers. And now we're at the tiebreaker portion of this draft. So I'm looking at teams that were maybe on the bubble.
Yeah.
One thing goes wrong for a lot of these teams. This is actually the funny thing about the parity in the league right now is that teams really don't have a lot of depth. So like one big piece goes wrong and it's 3 or 4 game slide and you're out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. They're just all so close together. I mean, it's when you look at the Vegas win totals and you have 5 teams with the same number, you're like, how am I supposed to parse that? So yeah, I don't mind that pick at all. I had the Mavericks actually much lower just because I do feel, along with the Timberwolves and the Thunder, they're the 3 teams in the West I feel most comfortable that they can sail above the fray and not end up in the play-in. Let's go rapid fire through the rest. I think we're going to now we're just taking random shots.
We are taking
and then it's going to be who goes last. So I will take the Raptors now. I don't think they're going to be any good at all, but somebody's got to be the 10th seed, and I'll go with the Raptors. So who are you going to take next?
By that same sort of thinking, I'm going with the Charlotte Hornets. New coach, LaMelo healthy. We like Brandon Miller. He's a good player. Like we like their young guys. So think the Hornets make that 10th seed.
I'll take the Cavaliers next. If the Magic and Pacers don't end up in the play-in, if the Heat don't end up in the play-in, somebody's got to drop down, and I'll guess it's going to be the Cavaliers more so than like the Knicks or the Celtics or the 76ers. Yeah. All right. Who's your next pick?
This one would be a coup, and I think Tobias Harris would deserve MVP votes if this happens, but how about Detroit? Why not Detroit?
Detroit was next on my big board. So I'm sad you got them there. I'm now going to pick the 76ers, even though I think when healthy, they might be the second best team in the East. You can't talk about the 76ers without mentioning Joel Embiid and his availability. And Paul George is no spring chicken either. So what if they finish tied in a 4-way tie from 5 through 8 again? Yeah, I'll take the 76ers next.
I love professional basketball player Harrison Barnes, and getting him to San Antonio really just makes me feel much better about that team. Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama. We saw those photos. They look ridiculous. It's like an adult with a child. I'm going with the Spurs. Victor Wembanyama, MVP level season. They make the 7 seed. How about that?
Yeah, I think the Spurs are going to be horrible.
They're so bad.
They're going to be horrible. I don't see how they're going to break through. But they could. Now we've hit the point of like we're talking about. Yes. Is it bad teams that are going to surprise us big time, or good teams that are going to fall short? I think I'm gonna pick a good team that might fall short. I'll take the Timberwolves next. I think among the options remaining, might as well. I don't feel good about this pick, but I don't think we're going to feel good about any of our final now 8 picks. All right, who's next for you?
I'm going to go by the literally same logic, going with the New York Knicks, right? We know how Tom Thibodeau likes to run guys into the ground. Everyone was hurt come playoff time last year. Yep. You speed that timeline up. If that happens in like February, these guys start running out of gas, you can see them drop into the play-in.
All right, I'm going to go with... This is actually hard. I'll say yes. The teams we have left are the Thunder, the Jazz, the Knicks, the Celtics, Trailblazers, Nets, and Wizards. I don't think the Nets, Wizards, Trailblazers have any chance of making a playoff. I don't think the Jazz do either. I think it would be, it would take so many injuries for the Celtics to finish 7th. I feel like, well, I'm not even considering them. So I'm choosing between basically, I guess I'm going between the Thunder, which I think is easily the best team on paper in the West, and the Knicks.
Oh, I picked the Knicks.
Yeah. Oh, you just picked the Knicks. Well, then that makes it easy for me. Oh, wait, am I missing a team? I might be missing a team. I have the Knicks written down twice. Amazing. Mm. All right. Well, then I'll take the Thunder while I figure out who the missing team is.
Okay. Man, if the Thunder are in the play-in, wow, we're gonna have to go do a
I will point out once again, if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander misses any time, I think that's a 500 team. They don't have ball handling.
Yeah,
they don't have shot creation.
Have a rough time.
So,
okay, you said this is unlikely, but I don't know, man. I kind of like their starting lineup. Dominating in the middle, Jeremy Grant at the floor. I mean, they have players. They have all these pieces that we like. I think we nailed the starting lineup.
You're right.
Portland. Why not Portland? Like, be the 10 seed. That's, recapture the magic. The hipsters love the play-in. Make a push.
They already lost Shaedon Sharpe for 6 to 8 weeks with a shoulder injury, so the hits keep on coming for that team. And Dave, I have bad news. The missing team is the Chicago Bulls, and I will be taking them right now. They have all designs on making the play-in. They love where they're at. Their front office has never been so confident.
Lonzo is playing 5-on-5.
Lonzo is playing basketball again?
Listen, I'm so pumped about that.
They only have to beat out the Hornets and some other horrible teams. Yeah, let's do it, Josh Giddey. Let's do it, Ayo Dosunmu. Let's do it, Modest Buzelis. No, I'm very excited that we forgot about the Bulls, and I'm getting them this late in the draft.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the Utah Jazz. Why not?
Why not?
If they don't pull the plug, right?
Yes.
Why couldn't this be a play-in team? Larry Markkinen is really good. I mean, this is a pretty good basketball team with some decent players. This should be a play-in team.
So, it comes down to their backcourt, which might be the weakest in the NBA, just because they're depending on Keontae George and Isaiah Collier to do things.
So maybe Jordan Clarkson.
They always win at least half of their home games. That should get them into the play-in if they wanted to make the play-in. It's not a bad pick here. So that leaves me either the 2 worst teams, the Wizards and Nets, or the best team, the Celtics. I guess I'll just play the injury card with the Celtics and take them and say maybe they end up somehow 7th, but it seems dumb. But anyways, all right, I'll take the Celtics. Who do you want? Wizards or Nets?
Well, you said it. I nailed the Wizards starting lineup.
Yep.
Going with the Wizards.
All right.
It's just crazy enough to work.
It is. All right.
What if Jordan Poole led the league in scoring?
He was supposed to last year.
Jordan Poole?
He wasn't up for it.
That was my thing. I was like, Jordan Poole, 35 points.
To wrap up, Dave, your 15 teams that you drafted to make the play-in order of most to least, you ended up with the Pacers, Grizzlies, Magic, Hawks, Clippers, Rockets, Suns, Mavericks, Hornets, Pistons, Spurs, Knicks, Trailblazers, Jazz, and Wizards. I ended up with the Pelicans, Lakers, Heat, Kings, Warriors, Bucks, Nuggets, Raptors, Cavaliers, 76ers, Timberwolves, Thunder, Bulls, Celtics, Nets. And now, Dave, let's answer a single listener submitted question, and then we'll have an awards segment of the program. Let's actually do that right after this quick break.
Any questions?
It is now time for a single listener submitted question. The croissant questioner.
Knock yourself out.
All right, Dave. This is a good question based on the exercise we just did. Bobby Payton wants to know, which teams have the biggest range of possible outcomes this season? I think like we talked about it with like the Grizzlies, where it's like, they could be 2 through 10. Not surprising at all in the West.
Okay. How do you feel about Steph Curry, Keith?
Oh. All right. So
we watched the Olympics.
It's the Warriors for you?
What if it's the Warriors? What if, because I mean, it's Steph Curry, really. Could the Warriors win a title?
That would be hard.
It'd be impossible, probably, but I don't know.
What's the formula? I've already said it many times. I think they're going to have possibly a top 5 defense. If they
they miss the playoffs, though,
if
right?
they
See, that's what I'm saying.
Of course,
like,
they missed it last year.
Range for them. I just mean like maybe they missed the play-in completely.
I think in this Western Conference, it's all about lots of teams being able to miss the play-in. Yeah. I could imagine the Lakers being the 2 seed or being 12th. I could imagine. I don't think I have the Rockets with that much.
The top teams, I think, are just the top teams. I just don't think that Oklahoma City, Minnesota. I'll put Denver in there, even though I don't like it as much. But Jokic in the West, I think those 3 teams. The only way they drop off is injury. I could see the Miami Heat in the East being the 3 seed if like Jimmy Butler is totally fine. And then I could see them being like 12th because it just doesn't work. And Jimmy's kind of done. And Jimmy wants to get out of there. And it's like, I could see that's one team in the East specifically where it's like so many ranges of outcomes. I have a hard time seeing anybody. Most of these teams, I'm like, all right, Sixers, 1 through 6 seed or 1 through 7 seed, or Celtics 1 through 3. It's like there's not that many wide range. Maybe the Bucks I'm a little bit wider on. They could be the 1 seed, maybe the 8th seed. So yeah, it's a hard question. Maybe it's more fun to think of like the Pistons, where it's like you could be last in the East again, or you could be 5th. Maybe, probably not 5th. 7th. How many title teams? How many teams do you think could win the title next year?
We've had
4.
How many years is it? 6 consecutive years.
6 straight of
different title winners. I think the inner circle. I don't even know what the inner circle is. It's like the Celtics are the inner circle.
Well, right.
And then it's all right. Who are the next guys where things break correctly for you? And that's the Thunder and the Mavericks and the Knicks, and I guess the 76ers. And I don't really feel like putting the Timberwolves in there. Who am I shunning with that? Oh, I didn't say Nuggets.
Yeah, you didn't say Nuggets.
Nuggets are on that second tier just because they have Jokic.
Right.
Maybe Suns are with the Timberwolves tier of like the slight. If I'm now expanding the circle a little bit, I don't know. Who do you think are the inner circle outside of the Celtics?
I would say it's Boston, Oklahoma City, Denver, and I need to see Minnesota a little bit with just a new iteration, but I have them right on the outside. But I think it's those 3 teams, maybe Milwaukee.
Yeah, I don't see the Milwaukee thing, but then if you just pretend that Chris Middleton and Damian Lillard are a year and a half younger or something,
right?
So I can see it. Maybe we've hit this NFL parity thing. Or maybe we've hit the point where with the 3-point shot, it is so much harder just for one player to be able to will his team the way we think of Michael Jordan kind of being able to do it kind of by himself. I think Jokic is the only guy who's close to that. I mean, maybe Embiid, if he stayed healthy, would be able to get to that level. But then you just have these squads that are just depending on depth, like the Celtics, where obviously they have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who are top X number of players. I don't know, 10 or whatever, 15 players. And you start stacking those guys. And that's what the Knicks are going for. We're going to stack Brunson, who might be the 10th best player. And then what if we add 3 guys who are top 30 player? I don't do player rankings, but it's still trying to figure that out. I don't even see the Knicks as like that probable, other than I like their roster more than everybody else in their conference. This question
is almost like, who is this year's Mavericks? The team that just needs one little piece and it can go.
Did I say the Suns? Did I mention the Suns yet as an answer? Because now the more I think about it, they could be the 1 seed or they could be the 10th seed.
I don't think they could be the 1 seed.
I think 2 years ago, what the one seed, the Nuggets had 53 wins.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why not that again? If the Rockets or the Clippers are the 12th best team in their conference and they're winning 42 games, which is possible, that means everyone is going to be. I mean, it might mean the Trailblazers go winless, but if you have that situation, if that is the way the win totals are spread out with 12 teams that are over 40 wins, it might be this clump, 40 wins to 51 wins, and that's everybody. That's the top.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. But sorry, I don't know if we answered your question very well, Bobby. It's a good thought. Yeah, I don't know if there are any other teams that have that. Maybe the Magic, who we both discounted, could the Magic ride that defense? What if Bencaro takes another step and then all of a sudden they're like the second or third in the East versus, I don't know. Doing the ranges for fully healthy teams where it's like, if we're not doing injuries, it's tough.
It is hard.
All right, let's do.
I don't know. This is a good question though, because it's something to think about, right? Yeah.
And by the way, if you want your question answered on air, you got to be a Patreon supporter. Patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. Come play negative fantasy with me and all the other listeners. And speaking of negative fantasy, it is now time for the awards segment of the program. It's back. The International Stackhouse of Pancakes Award given to the worst performance in a box score. We had preseason games. I went through each box score one by one, just because Basketball Reference or NBA.com doesn't let me sort through preseason stats. Why? No one knows. Honorable mention, Tim Hardaway Jr. 1 for 7, Kyle Kuzma 1 for 7, Quentin Post 1 for 7. This week's International Stackhouse of Pancakes Award has a play-in. Jalen Pickett, AJ Johnson, and Bub Carrington each went 1 for 8. And they're competing against each other. Jalen Pickett had 4 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists, a steal, a turnover, a foul. AJ Johnson had 2 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 turnovers, 3 personal fouls, and Bub had 7 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 turnovers, 3 personal fouls. That's going to be AJ Johnson coming through the play-in. AJ Johnson, 3 turnovers, 3 fouls, 1 for 8, 2 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. That's one of those young guys the Bucks drafted to help out. Good luck with that. Hope he develops. So he is now going up against Brandon Pajemski. Coming off the bench for the Warriors was 1 for 9, 4 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 turnover, 2 personal fouls. And then Max Christie in the second preseason game for the Lakers had 3 out of 14 field goal attempts, 12 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 3 turnovers, 0 personal fouls, perhaps try. So Dave, we're picking between Pajemski 1 for 9, 4 points, 4 assists, 5 boards, AJ Johnson 1 for 8, 2 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 turnovers, 3 fouls, and Max Christie 3 for 14, 12 points, 3 assists, 3 turnovers. What do you think?
Going with Pods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not great. 1 for 9, not ideal. Got some rebounds and assists though. I'm fine with it. I might have gone with Christie with his higher number. AJ Johnson's line is so hideous, but also he's basically saved by only 8 field goal attempts. I will let you off. All right. Congratulations. Brandon Pajemski being the first International Stackhouse of Pancakes Award winner for the 2024-2025 season. And with that, Dave, I think we did it. Good job to us for trying to do that exercise. It was kind of hard. I hope the takeaway is there's like 18 teams that are the same. They're kind of all the same, and I'll try to pick them out with the win totals in the upcoming days. What are you looking forward to, Dave? We got a whole slate of actual games. We have games not being televised. Good job, everybody. Good job, Bally's. Good job, NBA. Way to not have games on TV.
I believe the Thunder, do they play tonight or do they play tomorrow? They play tonight. Thunder and Spurs.
No Wemby though.
Spurs. I know, but still. Thunder Spurs. It'll be the first time seeing the Thunder together with their new guys. We have all these expectations for them. Let's see. Can they deliver in the preseason, Keith? It's very important.
We also have the new look 76ers going against the New Zealand Breakers. They had that 17-year-old. I don't know his name. He was fun. New Zealand has a 17-year-old prospect who played pretty well in his first matchup. Anyways, yeah, we'll keep watching all of those preseason games. Everybody, make sure you sign up for the Negative Fantasy League. And thanks for listening. You guys are the best. And remember, breakfast is the most important thing.
Yeah, never apologize for being G&G. Fastbreak break, man. You understand?
I will remember.